Blossom Bar Rapids is a Class 4 cataract that's notorious for the difficulty it presents to boaters. The name alone conjures up images of powerful hydraulics, a boneyard of house-sized boulders with tight passages, and whitewater roaring like a jet taking off. The opening act of this rock concert is a picket fence, a line of crags with the full force of the river slamming into them and forcing river runners to make a hard cut to the center chute. As you can see in this video, the woman who was rowing a raft didn't make that move, and her boat got pinned against the boulders in the picket fence. Once she scrambled off the raft and onto one of those salt nuggets, the raft decided to run the rapids solo. After it bumbled through the first pour-off, it seemed like it knew exactly where it was headed, even though nobody was on the sticks. And it left her stranded on a no-man's land of igneous rock surrounded by an avalanche of booming whitewater. She was still grieving the loss of her raft when this guy in a smaller boat decided to attempt a run through Blossom Bar, but he too didn't make the cut to the center chute. Since his was a smaller raft, his boat didn't park on the purgatory of the picket fence, and instead he pinballed downstream, spinning and bouncing from one boulder to the next, with the river gods blessing him as he finished his downstream run. Meanwhile, the rest of the woman's party stood on the bank yelling at one another and scratching their heads as they tried to figure out how to rescue her. They had ropes aplenty, and some of those ropes had already been deployed to reach her, but to no avail. I was rowing a drift boat, and when we got to the side of the rapids, it was obvious that this attempted rescue had been unfolding for quite some spell. As I held the boat above the rapids trying to figure out how in the world did this woman get parked on that god-awful piece of real estate, the men on the scout rocks were yelling at me to pull over. They had a rescue going on, for crying out loud, and they didn't really want me trying to run Blossom while she was stuck out there. But somehow, it didn't look like their rescue had been all that successful. So instead of heading to the bank and joining the gathering flotilla of rafts and inflatables tied up there, my partner and I decided we'd try and pick the woman up as we floated by. If she could jump in the boat while we were in the neighborhood, well, that'd be just dandy. And if not, well, we'd head on downstream without her. As I slid into the top of the rapids, I rowed hard to catch that softer water on the right side of the entrance chute. Once we were in that slower water, I reefed on the oars and stalled the boat so I could size up the currents that raced by the rocks she stood on. I pulled hard to ease the boat down toward her. My buddy up front in the drift boat used hand signals to let her know we planned to get close enough for her to jump in. You can see Bert waving his arms, encouraging her to jump in the boat as we got closer to her, and I could see her eyeballs were as big as cue balls as we approached. Once we got within a couple of feet of the rock she'd parked on, I yelled, "Jump now!" And with that, she leapt over the gunwale and landed in Bert's lap. You can see her smothering Bert with kisses and hugs as she landed in his lap. They were shimmying around like a couple of chipmunks while I strained on the oars to pull the boat away from the rocks and get lined up to run the center chute. They kept squirreling around until I yelled at them to settle down. "Hey, we ain't out of this mess yet," I barked. And once she settled into Bert's lap, we were just another boat making a clean run through Blossom Bar like there hadn't been any of that drama at the top of the rapids. You can tell old Bert was a happy camper having that young woman sitting in his lap as we ran through the bottom end of Blossom Bar. He didn't suggest she sit down on the seat next to him. And was she glad to be off that perch and rejoin with the others in her party? You bet.